You just live for this time of year. Penn State football kicks off in a week's time. Saturday is the first game, and one of the most important parts for this show, who's going to be at the game? Who's showing up? I'm Thomas Frank Carr. That's what these guys are going to be telling you. Ryan Snyder looking angelic today. I don't know.
What is going on?
I don't know. I love it, though. I love the highlight. It looks like you've got some effect on your camera.
I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying to figure that out now. I don't think we just were backstage and it did not look like this. What happened? I don't know,
but I had to restart my computer. Totally off the rails to start the show. I had to restart my computer because I was in black and white and purple for some reason because my camera just did that. Yeah, so I think that's just something a bug in the system today. Anyway, who's showing up at the game? We'll be talking about that later today. Sean Fitz, Blue White Illustrated publisher, with us as well to give a lowdown on all of that. Guys, how are you doing today, Fitz? How you doing on game week? It's all here.
Great. Just fantastic. It's game week. I'm excited. I'm not going to lie. It's just been looking forward to this one for a long time. I mean, West Virginia, you get the regional
off
aspect
and running.
of it.
Let's see. What do we got here? Ryan, are you available?
Oh, I'm here, boys. I'm just trying to make my stuff look normal. Go ahead. Keep talking.
We totally froze up there for a second. Fitz, please restart what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I think that was on your end, I guess. But no, I'm very excited. It's going to be a good time. The regional aspect of the game has me excited. The night game aspect has me excited. The visitor list, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, has me excited. It is an exciting day. And it's just football's finally here. What else can you say?
We're going to get into that at the end of the show, but we got some Friday night lights action that we all consumed. Ryan was out in Ohio making a very long trip on Friday to go out see Ethan Grunkemeyer. So before we get deep into it, Ryan, how was the trip and what did you take away? Just, again, broad strokes of what you saw from Ethan playing. I've been describing them as Ohio Power Medina. Is that fair? Like, Medina's classically a very good football school, right?
Yeah, they certainly have been in recent years. Won 11 games last year, won 13 games the final year with Drew. And Olentangy smacked them. Honestly, they were never – I mean, it was always pretty clear that Grunkemeyer and his squad were going to come out on top of that one. But just like when I went to Iowa to see Jackson Smolik, they were so similar. It was kind of scary. The week before, Grunkemeyer, right, throws 400 plus yards, 500 yards of total offense, 5+ touchdowns. Smolik did the exact same thing. I'm like, okay, perfect. We're going to get out here. We're going to have, an air raid show. I'm going to have all these clips. And then they ran the ball 50 times for 250 plus yards. So, we didn't get quite the stats, the highlights, all that good stuff. But there was still a lot to take away from it. I mean, I can kind of roll into just kind of my general thoughts. I was really impressed with his arm strength. And we saw that with Elite 11, but it's more natural than I realized, I guess if that makes sense. I mean, he makes these 35, 40-yard throws look pretty effortless. And that's, I knew that, but I didn't quite realize to that extent. I also think his footwork really continues to improve. That's another major thing. And then I didn't realize, I knew he could move with his feet. We knew he ran a 4.7 and all that stuff. But, boy, there's a couple highlights in there where, I mean, he makes some linebackers look pretty silly. So just was impressed with pocket presence and, able to make plays out of nothing. He was sacked a couple times. If you look at the stats, look at the highlights, I think only really one of those sacks I would really say was his fault. He had an interception too, and my God, the safety made an incredible play. T-Frank, you asked me about that the other day about was it the safety or was it Grunk? No, that was the safety. I mean, I don't think I think that's a completion more often than not, against other teams. So just very, very impressed with the arm strength, the footwork, being able to make plays out of nothing, and looking forward to seeing him continue to impress here in the weeks ahead.
Pretty soon, Ethan Grunkemeyer, you see him on the Penn State football field. Still a couple years from now, but he is in the next class to commit to Penn State. Guys you could see at Penn State this coming weekend, guys like, I don't know, Drew Aller, Nick Singleton. Do you have a place to stay for the game? This is a really important part of the game day experience and the game weekend experience, and we're excited to tell you about Alum Lodge, because you could stay at an Airbnb, you could stay at a hotel. I mean, hotels are ridiculous in price, but you could definitely stay there, or you could stay here in this amazing house in Toff Trees, which is beautiful inside and outside. And you could have a concierge customized experience to your game day weekends. Maybe you want to have certain wine for your tailgate. Well, they could probably get that for you. You want to get a local flavor in town. You can get that. And that's with our show sponsor, Alum Lodge. Alum Lodge, they deliver a customized service to meet unique needs of each guest stay and, want you to come back and stay at the house again. This one, by the way, this is the new one they uploaded to the site recently, so you get to see some of their other properties other than the one in Bellefonte, the horse farm that I've been telling you about that I kind of wish I could stay at. This one I believe this is the Toff Trees house. It is beautiful, immaculate. They have multiple locations across the area. I would say Center County, but really across State College, Bellefonte, right where you want to be. You're not going to be staying out in Center Hall. As much as I love Center Hall, like these are going to be like 10 minutes from the stadium. You can have your game day experience, and also you can stay in amazing luxury. So book your Alum Lodge stay right now because it's coming up this weekend, and use promo code BWI to receive 10% off your booking. That's 814-424-3266 or alumlodge.com. I can't spell, so I'm not going to spell it out for you, but alumlodge.com. Live spelling, not a thing I really want to do. So check them out. Appreciate them being a sponsor here of the show for the 2024 or 2023 season. So let's get back to Ethan Grunkemeyer. You mentioned, we'll throw up his highlights here, driving all the way out to see Ethan Grunkemeyer. One of the things that I noticed from this game, just in terms of, Ryan, you go to these games where teams are deciding, hey, Jackson Smolik isn't going to beat us. The game you went to last year, they played, I think, 8 or 9 in coverage. And this game, for the first 2 games of the season, they've been playing press man coverage. They're bringing 5. They're saying that you're either going to throw the ball quickly or you aren't going to throw the football. And Medina really put the pressure on him, 5-man rushes. So they kind of took him away from the game. So if you look at the stats of this game, he was involved in the rushing game, but the passing yardage, a little bit lower than you might expect, under 200 yards. But as you mentioned, here are some of those plays that the elusiveness and just talk again about like his performance in person that maybe doesn't match up with the stats that you saw from this past weekend.
Well, I mean, first off, I think 3 or 4 drops, one of which was a clear touchdown pass. 16. What do you finish? 16 for 23, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 passing, 1 was a sneak for a score. Easily could have been 240. Probably should have been 2 touchdowns. One thing I'll notice too is for when he does overthrow guys or what's the best way to put it? He's always putting the ball in the right spots, right? Like he's putting it where only his guy's going to get it. No one's going to intercept it. Like I said, he had 1 interception. I don't know if you included that in these highlights, T-Frank. So like the safety makes just an incredible play. And that I didn't really fault Grunk for that a whole lot. I mean, he makes a diving one-handed tip and then somehow comes down with it. So, credit to that kid. But just making smart decisions, I think. This was a game where they never had to force it. Medina came back in the second quarter, made it look a lot closer at halftime than the game really was. So what does he do? He comes out in the third quarter, leads an excellent drive. Again, a lot of rushing in this game. But when he was asked to make plays with his feet, to make plays with the ball, or make plays with his arm, he came up clutch multiple times. I think he had 3 fourth down conversions in this game, including one that you just saw there. So just smart decision making. Again, I mean, I really was impressed with the arm strength, though. Like some of this, like this ball here was the touchdown, but there was a couple others, man, where he has some really nice fade passes. And if he has another receiver to maybe just run a little bit harder on the route or read it better, those 30, 40-yard fades are probably going to be closer to 3 for 5 instead of 1 for 5, which is what he was for this game.
You talked to him after the game, I believe. So what did he have to say? What was your conversation with him?
We were just catching up about the basic things, right? I mean, how much he's progressed over the last years, early season results, what is he excited about, those kind of things. I mean, I don't want to get into all the details because I want our fans to go read it, obviously. But he's very happy with where they're going. I mean, this is a team, Olentangy hasn't had a winning record in a couple of years, right? And they're off to a 2-0 start with 2 quality wins. this is the chance for them to really make a run this year. So it was a lot about just kind of how excited he is here moving forward, how much Brad Mandler's helped him with his progression. We talked a little bit about recruiting and what he's done to try and recruit guys. I mean, he kind of says that he thinks they're a little bit closer to being done than what you and I have been predicting, Sean. We still think that they can add a couple more. He feels like they're closer to being done, at least with the offensive side. So we'll see where things go from there. But, just kind of the basics on his progression and what to look forward here in the months ahead.
Fitz, everyone looking forward to the S zone of the season. Super excited in the chat.
First rule of S zone: don't ask for an S zone. Grunk, really, really good. The first couple of weeks is what I've noticed with him is his feet are always under him, and that might not seem like much, but it's not just in the pocket. It's not just scrambling. It's running in the open field. Balance is an elite trait that we don't probably talk about as much for a lot of positions, really. I think we get caught up with like slot receivers and running backs and things like that, but it's so important for every position. And he's got it, like, to go on top of that with that 4.2 shuttle or whatever he ran at that camp a couple of weeks ago. Like, this kid's an athlete, and he's a functional athlete. Like, he's not a robot back there. So that's good to see. You like to see his feet under him, just for the throwing aspect of it, but just in terms of the playmaking aspect of it. I think that's certainly something that we overlook sometimes at the quarterback position. So I think that's been through 2 weeks. I know he's put up numbers. I know that they're winning and that's things like that. But like from a progression standpoint, like, the kid is like still on the ascent, I think. And someone in the chat asked about him comparing him to Michael Van Buren at St. Francis. And it's tough because Van Buren is playing with St. Francis, which is a different like talent level across the board. And he's playing against better teams. They played Chaminade Madonna this weekend. But Grunk easily looked better than Michael Van Buren. And I think his progression is still on the up. And Van Buren, as a sub 6 foot quarterback, is a guy that's kind of leveled off quite a bit. And, he was out there the other day. He made some ill-advised throws and some things that we could pick apart, obviously. Still a very good quarterback. I don't think he's close to what ESPN has him, but he's still a very good quarterback. I think Grunk has come further in the last year, and that's a testament to the work that he's put in. So excited to see him continue his ascent. And if you're Penn State fans, you're probably pretty happy with the way that one's turned out so far.
Yeah, and just some of the things I wrote this weekend after watching his film, kind of from the stream angle. There were a couple of throws that seemed less of a clean game than week one, but then watching Ryan, always appreciate when you go out and you get the your perspective on the games and the video you bring back, because you saw some of the throws. I mentioned throwing to his right, he seems to overthrow a little bit. That was kind of a part of his perspective last year. But then you look at one of the throws and there's a linebacker underneath. He's trying to thread it, trying to layer it. I think the tight end maybe could have made a better attempt of jumping and timing his jump. So there's mitigating circumstances. And then on one of the go balls where he misses, the receiver, literally his arm can't move because the guy is giving him an arm bar. So that timing on that was messed up in terms of that deep ball. So even watching some of these plays, there's mitigating circumstances on a couple of his throws, because accuracy, I've said, is his superpower and not the completion percentage you'd expect, but there's reasons for that when you dive into the tape as well. So another great game from Ethan Grunkemeyer. You mentioned the S Zone. You mentioned all the stuff coming up this weekend. Boom. 50% off for your yearly subscription at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. That's going on this week. It's our kickoff sale. So if you haven't taken the dive yet, there's a bunch of people watching here live on YouTube on Monday morning. We have thousands of people that watch on replay. If you haven't done it yet, it's $50 at this point. Like, you spend $50 accidentally sometimes. Go get the best Penn State football information on the internet, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, because we're not going to be getting to all the names coming up this weekend. We're not going to be getting to all the conversations and all the intel that we have about these football players that we saw over the weekend. Fitz, I'm coming back to you. I know that you were watching Malachi Williams last time we talked. I don't know who else you got to see this weekend. So give us your impression of how Malachi Williams did, and then who else did you watch this weekend, if anybody else?
Oh, Malachi playing in Ireland with the commentary was fantastic. I enjoyed that. A big chunk of his game was missing, which is the part where he had the 2 sacks, but 7 tackles, 2 sacks against the NFL Academy. The NFL Academy is, I believe, based in London. They've had guys that come over and play, get scholarships. the name escapes me off the top of my head, but they had a tight end going to Temple. I think he's a really good player. I saw him at Under Armour a couple years ago. The dude popped his thumb out and kept playing, and it was a testament to the way that he approaches the game. So they've got some good ones. An offensive lineman just picked up a Clemson offer, so there's some legitimate talent on that team. Williams looked very good. He's just so quick in and out, and I know he's added about 20 pounds this offseason, so he's playing bigger. There were a bunch of instances where there were fumbled snaps or there were missed handoffs or something like that, but Williams was there to clean it up. That was good, and I almost had a pick as well. So a good start. Anytime you go to Ireland to open your season, it's going to be a change for you, but they seem to have adjusted well. Won their first game of the season there in a pretty cool kickoff environment there surrounding the Notre Dame Navy game this weekend that we're not going to talk about. So good start for Malachi Williams. I'm excited to see his progression from week 1 to week 2, but a really, really good start. He's so quick. He's got the length. I'm really looking forward to seeing the progress that he makes, because he was lights out of camp this year. And when he's just going to rush the passer, and he played the run pretty well, put up a few clips on my Twitter. But when he's rushing the passer, there's not too many that can, get there as quickly as him. So excited to see the progress that he makes in the next couple of weeks when he starts playing Pennsylvania teams. And I think there's a lot to like there with Mr. Williams.
A couple guys that I was seeing a little closer to home than Ohio or Dublin, Ireland. I checked out Central Catholic. They had their game on the internet as well. Peter Gonzalez, I think it was just 2 catches, but both were touchdowns, and one of them was like a 60 or 50-yard bomb. So that Central Catholic offense is fast. They have a lot of players. I know you guys were talking about how good they were going to be watching them in 7-on-7 this winter and this spring. Whew. They have a lot of targets. They spread the ball around. So he only had 4 targets in the game, but he caught 2 passes for 2 touchdowns, including one that was a really impressive get behind the defense sort of play. And he's just comically larger than everybody else. Like, that's not anything. That's a surprise. And then Anthony Specca, when he is on and he knows where to go, and this is what you saw last year, like, he is an explosive athlete, very quick first step, good speed, and kind of one of those heat-seeking missile-type players that the guidance system still needs some calibration. There was a couple plays where he pulls himself out of position because he's so aggressive going towards the offensive line in run support, and that caused some issues elsewhere. But you look at what he's got in terms of his confidence, his explosiveness, and his coverage ability. All of those things that you saw last year improved in certain areas, but kind of the fundamental baseline of who Anthony Specca was as a player is pretty similar to what it was last year. But both of those guys looked very good in a blowout win. So, again, if you want to check out my recap of those guys, I also watched Grunkemeyer, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. We had that coverage this past weekend. Fitz, did you get to anybody else? I apologize if you didn't. I just want to make sure you had a chance to wrap up with anything else.
I saw some shorter stuff on John Mitchell, who had a good game. Antoine Belgrave shorter had an interception last weekend. John Mitchell was in the mix this weekend, so there wasn't the full game that I found. I watched some of the Woodlands in Texas to look at Keandre Barker, and then realized about a quarter in that Barker was not playing. He's got a transfer issue. He said he's probably going to be good to go this week, so I'm excited to see how that goes. Boy, Texas football, man, that's different right there. Like, it was different production value, different with just everything was big time, and which is, Varsity Blues, etc. But it was crazy to see the difference between the production like that and the production after coming off of the Bonner Prendy NFL Academy game in Ireland. So, which I believe missed a quarter and a half because it was raining on the stream. So, a little bit different in Texas. Barker's team could have used them. They played North Shore, and North Shore was really good. Like, first play of the game, big play. Just those guys. It was really interesting watching the bit that I did on the Texas teams, and then watching like St. Francis Chaminade. Like, these Texas teams are machines. They are so well coached. They know exactly what they're doing. They do the thing where they run the same scheme from Pee Wee all the way up to high school. And then you get to the big schools, that like the talent acquisition schools, the coaching is not there. Like, and that's exciting for some prospects, because some prospects still have a surface to be scratched. But it's just interesting to juxtapose Texas versus kind of the rest of the country. So that was interesting to watch. Like I said, Barker's supposed to play next week. But other than that, that's that. We're just getting into the season. I know Messiah Mickens had a big day for Trinity. He's a guy that's going to get a lot of those short tosses and swing passes and run very far because he's pretty good. So the 2026 commit, Penn State's latest commit is I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he just toasted Central Pennsylvania competition.
Lots of yards.
Yes.
based on the highlight video. Ryan, you spoke with Mickens previously. Another one of those things you can read over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com if you sign up for 50% off your yearly subscription. I believe you can also get the $1 deal. You can get $1 for a month, but I mean, like, come on, get the deal is getting half off on a season-long subscription. So just, if you don't mind, giving the big impressions and takeaways from talking to Messiah previously this weekend.
All right. Well, first off, the tight end, Sean, you were thinking of, Peter Clark from England, which, by the way, that's like the most English name ever. Peter Clark.
Yeah, it's got an E at the end.
Two, I promise you, I'll get the Mickens. Two, Imatep, 87-0 over Life Christian. I think we have to mention that. They were winning 60-0, I think, at halftime. So I'm happy I did not go down to that game. We will see them here soon. Don't worry. But getting the Mickens, I mean, the two big things from Mickens' conversation, one, which I kind of hit on in the Jordan Hill interview that we did, and then on last week's podcast, just how much Mahdi and Jordan Hill have impacted this early decision. I mean, I think it's a massive reason why. I mean, I think he always wanted to go to Penn State. That would have been clear even if Jordan wasn't the coach, but I don't think he would be committed right now if he wasn't around Mahdi and Hill and just kind of seeing the impact that Penn State's had on those guys. And then two, the other big takeaway was just his relationship with Lex Cyrus and Elias Koch. Those three would all be playing together at Susquehanna Township if they didn't decide to make different moves on their way up to varsity high school football. So I can only imagine what a team with Mickens, Lex Cyrus, and Elias Koch all on the same team would look like. But those guys are very close with Mickens. I mean, they remain good friends. He says he talks to them both almost every day. So those are obviously relationships to keep an eye on. We talked a little bit about Maurice Barnes too over at McDevitt and his relationship with Mickens. So I just think that the main thing, the biggest thing I kind of learned from that Q&A was really how close he is with some of these other Central PA guys. Obviously, Sean, you and I have been talking about for a little while now, that 2026 Harrisburg class is going to rank up there among probably one of the better ones we've seen over the last decade. So we'll be talking about that a ton here in the weeks ahead.
Once again,
years ahead.
I'm beating a dead horse here, but sign up 50% off BlueWhiteIllustrated.com to get all that information. We talked about where you're going to stay for the game, but do you have tickets? You got to have tickets to get in the game. And our guy, Tickman Jim, back for Season 2 on the Blue White Illustrated BWI Live Show. Join the most exciting atmosphere in college football with Tickman Jim. It is a primetime game, 7:30, which is why it's such one of the reasons, I should say, not the only reason, one of the reasons, such a great list we're going to get to next. But if you've been looking for a reliable source of Penn State football tickets, TicksmanJim.com. And he's been doing this for so long, he has an alias, formerly PSUTixman.com. He's been running his ticket exchange in Wilmington, Delaware for over 25 years. Every buyer is handled with courtesy and respect. Every ticket purchase is guaranteed. That's a big deal because you're in the online secondary market, sometimes can get a little shady. This is a reputable business that's been around for 25 years. Most every ticket is transferred to your Ticketmaster email address, and proceeds are used to fund the PSU AA Chapter Scholarship Fund and the PSU Levi Lamb Fund for athletic scholarships. Get your tickets to the home opener right now. TicksmanJim.com. Iowa, the Whiteout, Homecoming, Michigan, all the games in this 2023 season that is promising to be one of the most exciting in the last 10 years of Penn State football. TicksmanJim.com or email Jim at TicksmanJim@gmail.com or call him 302-521-8380. Give you that again. 302-521-8180. We will be back with your list, well, at least part of it, about who's going to be at the West Virginia game after this. Are you a company that is passionate about athletics and wants to tap into the Penn State sports community? Maybe you're a community organization in State College, Center County, Pennsylvania, or even planet Earth. Are you interested in growing your brand and leveraging our YouTube and podcast platform? Or are you just a person that has some money to spend? If you're any of those things, or something I didn't bring up just now, consider advertising on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube show. We have a dedicated and passionate audience that is just waiting to hear from you. Through me, talking about your business on the show. That's how we do it. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, email Michelle DeLee Hamilton at michelle@comanpub.com. That's michelle@comanpub.com. We're waiting to hear from you. Through me, talking about you. Again, that's how we do it. The list, gentlemen. Just going to breeze right on by that. Ryan, you're muted.
When did you make that commercial? I didn't even know. Good job, man.
Oh, I made that months ago. I play it on the other shows where you guys aren't available because I don't want to scare you guys, because I know that I don't want to like throw you off in the middle of the show. So, but it's the
Greg,
season.
That was Greg pushing Nate on the chair through the office, right? That was
Yeah.
in the B-roll there.
You can do amazing things with free stock footage if you are willing to commit to absolute cheese. So that's what we got here. But the good stuff, cheese, a little bit of salt. But here's the good stuff. You guys have been following along, getting the inside information about who's going to be at this game, who's going to see Penn State's opening game of the 2023 season. So this is the part of the show I turn over to you guys and just sit back and listen to what you guys have to say. Fitz and Ryan, who's coming to the game? Who do you want to highlight?
It was a very big list. BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, Ryan's latest list went up yesterday with some, I think, 4 more confirmations from offered prospects. We're not going to get into them all here on the podcast, but we every year we kind of see the regulars start to show up, and those are mostly in-state guys. And this week is going to be heavily in-state and in region. You're just starting your season if you're a sophomore, junior, senior prospect. So like you want to stay close to home. Some guys have film in the morning. The night game makes it a little bit easier to get there. On top of that, the Tom Lemming photo shoot is back in town. And if you follow recruiting, you kind of know that wherever Tom goes, there's a decent amount of regional following. With guys that come and get interviewed, get their picture taken. And it just so happens that it falls on the day of the Penn State West Virginia game. Crazy how these things work out. I know. So in that case, they're going to have a lot of regional guys, including some PA guys that are familiar names. Michael Carroll is a guy that we've looked at as a legacy prospect, offensive lineman, came to camp a couple of times this summer, looked really good. Again, one of those guys on the improvement list in the last year, interior prospect, but has got that size. And that's an interesting thing while I'm talking about that, is Penn State has gotten bigger across the board, and they now have guys that I think Carroll would have been a tackle 4 years ago for Penn State. Like that's the kind of size transition that they've made, even though he's an interior prospect. But you're no longer straight playing guards at tackles. Sometimes it happens, obviously, but at the same time, you're looking at guys like Garrett Sexton, Egan Boyer, guys that actually have tackle frames, which means that you can get the big guards and make them big guards, which really helps. So that's been cool to watch. Going down the Pennsylvania list, Deshaun Burnett is another guy that's name, if you follow Penn State recruiting, you should be pretty familiar with, out of Pittsburgh. He's going to have he came to Penn State last year and picked up, I think his first offer was from Penn State at camp. But linebacker is going to be very interesting in the 2025 class. Burnett's a guy that I can see, if Penn State, really pushes for. It seems like it makes sense. I'll go next to Brady O'Hara in Pittsburgh as well. This kid had I think an 80-yard touchdown catch the other day. Really, really good athlete at 6'6", 240. Curious to where he sits on the tight end board, because Penn State has recruited tight end like very few programs in the country have been able to, like top guys. So curious to see if he could play defensive line. Can he play offensive line? Is he a tight end that can fit into this room? That's a very good question. You could say the same about Taquai Hayes from Aliquippa. Really, really good running back, But Penn State's recruiting great running backs right now. So junior film will be big for those guys. O'Hara, Hayes, and I think Penn State would take O'Hara right now. Hayes a little bit more cloudy with Keandre Barker on the commit list right now in 2025. So, but Penn State's got some good options. The class is far from finished in the class of 2025. We're going to see a lot of junior film. Guys will go up, guys will go down. That's just part of the process. But so far, a pretty solid start in state for Penn State.
Ryan, what do you got?
Well, we have to also mention Joshua Williams, I think, who is certainly up there with Carroll. I think is one of the better offensive linemen in PA. Let's see. You mentioned Hayes. I mean, outside of PA, I'm trying to think who. I mean, DJ McClary. I think. I mean, you mentioned Sean, the linebackers in 2025. I mean, McClary and Burnett. I mean, they really seem to me like if I'm picking two guys to end up in this class right now, like they both make a lot of sense there. So I think getting DJ back is pretty big. Because did DJ get here this summer? I don't think that he did. I thought it was
not here this summer. He was here in the winter, and he was part of that group where coming out of a junior day, we heard Jalen Matthews, Omari Gaines, and DJ McClary was that third name. And then after the first two committed, I was like, maybe I should put in a pick. Maybe this guy that I'm talking to knows what he's talking about with DJ McClary. So he hasn't been back, but getting him back on campus is big. Penn State's going to be heavy on outside linebackers next year. Not like they're going to take 5 of them, but like after this class with Kari Jackson, with Anthony Specca, and you don't know what's going to happen at outside linebacker in 2024, you're going to have to go back and revert back to recruiting outside in when you're talking about linebackers in the next class.
Right. So you also have Michael Thomas, then another New Jersey prospect who shaping up to be, I think, kind of a fringe 4-star guy, high 3-star, low 4-star. We'll see where things shape up there. But he's certainly high on the staff's board. And then you also have Kanoa Winston, of course, the Winstons. I think we talk about Winston for 7 straight podcasts, whether it's
we get a Winston football reference in every show. Just it's a drinking game these days.
Mandatory. So we'll see with Winston as well. Like as Sean's hit on a couple of times, a little bit under 6 foot. So how does that impact him? I don't think it'll impact him a whole lot. Penn State seems to be pretty high on him, but as Sean and I've hit on multiple times, junior season film will have a big impact there. And then you got a couple guys from outside. I don't want to say totally outside the region. Trey McNutt, of course, is from Ohio, but I think a lot of people think the Buckeyes are going to be a major player there. But he's, I think, the highest rated guy coming to this game right now, 60th in the country by On3. And he's pretty much a top 100 prospect everywhere, or just right outside top 100 at Rivals, I believe. But 6 foot 180, likely to be a defensive back, I believe. Sean, am I right with that? Is he DB? I think he's going to be a DB for Penn State.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Because we just have him as an athlete here. And I think 1 or 2 other schools, I think maybe it's Michigan likes him as an offensive player. I read that somewhat recently. But, and then TJ Alford as well, linebacker out of Texas. We've hit on him, linebacker out of Florida. Another top 100 player, pretty much on all the major sites. And getting him up would be pretty important, man. As Sean said, outside linebackers are going to be a very, very important spot for Penn State in this upcoming class. But right now, list is at 52, 53, I believe, shaping up to be another one of those 100-plus players. I don't know if we'll be able to confirm 100-plus players, but I could certainly see this getting up to 70 or so, maybe 80 or so by the end of the week, because we still have a lot of guys we're trying to confirm.
Not to brag here, but we have a lot of new subscribers to Blue White Illustrated's YouTube channel. If you're watching the show, you're having a great time, please like the video and subscribe, because we got tons of content coming up for you this year, including a live tailgate show 3 hours before kickoff coming up on Saturday. Myself and former Penn State defensive tackle Aeneas Williams are going to be live on the YouTube channel and at 99.5 The Bus locally in State College. We'll be in front of the BJC out in the tailgate atmosphere. So join us and have a good time. That's coming up 3 hours before kickoff. We got a 90-minute show for you. All that stuff here at the YouTube channel. But my point before I got into the promo, Ryan, was we've discussed this previously, but for all the people that are new to the recruiting conversation, night game generates an opportunity to have a list like this, right?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I mean, it's look, if everybody's playing on Friday night and you have a noon game and you got to get to State College and you're in Baltimore, well, that's a lot more tricky when you got to wake up early. And a lot of kids don't like waking up early. Let's be honest about that. And parents don't always want to do that after a late high school game as well. So I think that's always been a point of contention with the whole big noon kickoff. And there's other reasons for that too, as I know all the fans roll their eyes right now when it comes to tailgating and stuff like that. But
yeah.
But no, for State College specifically, no doubt about it. James is a big fan of having as many night games as he can for recruiting reasons. So I would expect 100 for this. I would expect probably 100 for Iowa as well. And hey, man, having those 2 games early in the season is massive too, because of the expectations this year, because of what they've done in the previous class. There's a lot of reasons for players to be excited about Penn State right now. So when you have 2 marquee games in the first, 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season, I think that should bode well as far as getting guys on campus. So already working on an Iowa list. We've only got a handful of guys for that. We'll save that conversation for another day.
Fitz, the first month of the season, we talk about how a lot of some of these final spots in the class of 2024, we're going to go into the season. If Penn State starts out hot, they've got these primetime games. Could you see guys pull the trigger, or is this just a situation where it's going to go into December and these situations, they're not going to resolve themselves with a hot start?
A hot start will help. I mean, I don't think there's any getting over that. It's never one game, one way or the other strong. But when you, I guess, start the wave, that kind of gets people's attention. So I think that having the opening game with West Virginia and then 4 weeks later having the whiteout game with Iowa, it gives you a chance to sort of double take if you're a prospect and be like, oh, that wasn't even a whiteout, and that was the atmosphere that I missed at West Virginia. Maybe I should check out the whiteout and see what it's going to be like. So I think that's going to help. I think that a lot of it will go into film, because that during that same stretch between the West Virginia game and the Iowa game, guys are going to have 3 or 4 weeks of film, senior film. And so wide receiver, maybe outside linebacker, offensive line, they're always going to look, of course. So there are positions that are still out there. I know Ryan talked to Ethan Grunkemeyer the other night, who seemed to be pretty convinced that Penn State was close to wrapping things up in the offensive side of the ball, but they got a big recruiting staff, and those guys don't really sleep very well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what new names arise, because there will be new names that arise. Like I don't know if it will be new names in the sense that it's a completely brand new offer in another part of the country, which always happens. And I'm sure it'll happen this time. Or if it's a guy that they were looking at that they were like not as hot on, maybe they didn't have the data that they wanted to have, and this guy's coming out and lighting it up. So it'll be interesting to see over the first couple of weeks of September which direction this staff goes in terms of following guys, especially at the receiver position. I think that you look at the Penn State class of 2024, and that's still a spot where they would like to address something and get something next level. Like they've got some good receivers committed, but like at the same time, it's not a situation where like any one dude is that dude, So I think that's what I'm looking at in those two positions, or that position and outside linebacker are definitely ones that come up, because you can find athletes that are that have encouraging profiles that you're going to keep watching, and I think you can throw edge in there as well.
Ryan, that's it for me today, guys. So if you've got some other things you want to discuss, we got a couple minutes here left on the show. Ryan, any final thoughts about what's coming up this weekend, or maybe some thoughts about the high school class, what you saw this past weekend?
Not really. I mean, I think we hit on most of it. I need to go back and watch. I got back at 3 a.m, so I'll be honest. My Saturday was kind of a wash. It was a little lazier than I had hoped to be as far as watching film and recapping. A lot of guys haven't put out their huddle films yet, so we'll do a lot of that today, recapping stats. I was trying to get some stats on Tyseer and Kenny Wosley, and haven't been able to find much from the Imhotep game. I know they absolutely romped there. So. But no, we have an interview coming up with Grunkemeyer's coach today. That was a good talk that we had while I was out there. So look for that. And I already have another confirmation for the West Virginia game. Good looking tight end prospect that we'll have up. So a couple things to keep an eye on here in the next couple hours.
These men never sleep. They constantly are work machines.
I did Saturday actually, but yeah.
Well, appreciate all your hard work this weekend, and we'll be looking forward to what comes out of this coming Saturday, but we got plenty of stuff coming up before then. Don't forget James Franklin's press conference coming up tomorrow. We also have a special interview with Curtis Jacobs. He came back to discuss training camp and to preview West Virginia. That is going to be a special edition of the BWI YouTube show coming up 7 p.m. on Tuesday night. So we've got 5 shows all the way through the week. Get you ready for the game. The hype train is on the tracks. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Talk to you then.